Hey, this is Boney James, and you're checking out YouKnowIGotSoul.com.
Hey, Boney.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for taking the time, though. We appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
First of all, just talk about your new album, Contact, which you recently released. What can listeners find on there?
Well, the record, it's got a few sort of themes running through it. I originally called it Contact because I had written a song and called it Contact because it sounded like an airplane propeller starting up to me, and it was like the old-style airplanes, and just had an energy to it. And, but then I started, doing all these collaborations with all the R&B artists that are on the record, Heather Headley and Mario and Latoya and Donnell are on the record, and so it's kind of like reaching across boundaries and making contact that way. And also there's some lyrics that ended up on the record, about regret and missed opportunities and people just wanting to connect, so it all kind of got mixed up together, and that was sort of the whole theme of the record, was just sort of trying to make that connection. Yeah,
cool. So, you mentioned the R&B collaborations you have on the album, and, what kind of made you want to branch out and, do those collaborations?
For me, each record is really just a reflection of the songs that I'm writing. That's kind of why I call it an album too, just because it's like a photo album. It's just a snapshot of where you are creatively when you're making it. And so I had written these songs, and usually when I'm writing, I'm starting to think about the saxophone as a melody, but sometimes it just doesn't work. It just doesn't sound right, quote unquote. So then I'll think, all right, well, maybe this is a vocal tune. And I basically, when I was done writing, I just had ended up with these 4 vocal tunes that I really loved and felt like they were a good expression of me and my style, but they needed vocals, so that was kind of where I kind of got into the process of trying to figure out who would be the right people to sing them, and was able to hook up with all these great artists and sort of take the record to a whole new level, and it definitely gives it a little bit more of a fresh sound to me.
Cool. We definitely support, each of these 4 artists who you collaborated with on the album, and I'd love to hear the stories of individually how, you hooked up with them, and then how, what the process was like in creating the song. So I'll start with the Latoya song, When I Had the Chance.
Well, Latoya, I just always really loved her. I hadn't been that aware of her when she was in Destiny's Child, but when her solo record came out and there was a track on there called Torn, I was driving down the street. This was, I guess 5 or 6 years ago when it first came out, and I heard the song on the radio out here in LA, and I was like, wow, who's that? I just really loved it, and I thought, what a great singer, and so I kind of had put her on my list of people that I would want to work with one day. So when I had this song, I thought she would just be the perfect person for it, and then it's all that whole thing, with each of them really about, trying to find out how you get a hold of this person, manager, and do they have a record company that's going to give you a hard time about letting them do it, and it's a big process to get people involved in doing collaborations, especially in this day and age where the music pie is shrinking and everybody's getting a little more territorial about it, but luckily it's all worked out.
Okay, cool. So, how was it working with Latoya on that song?
Oh, she was so cool, honestly. I really am just so fond of her now, not only did she come and do a great job singing the session, but we've also gone and done some promotional things. We were on the Monique show together, and she's just sweet as pie, really down to earth, incredibly talented. There's no auto-tune on that vocal at all. And I just really can't say enough good things about her. She's really professional and just, got all this bubbly energy and, cool. and cute, too.
Yep. Okay. Talk to me about, what was it like working with Heather Headley on I'm Waiting?
Heather Headley's great. She definitely has that more sort of like Broadway, thing, the funny thing about that was that I had been doing a gig down in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. It was like 90 degrees, and then I flew straight from there to Chicago to cut her vocal, and they were right in the midst of this huge snowstorm. It was like 5 below zero or something brutal. So that was the drag about that. But, she was great, too. She came in, and she's just a little bit more sort of a formal kind of person. But she's a great singer too. And just to be working with a Tony winner, a Grammy winner like her, I was really honored that she had agreed to do it. And I like the way that she sort of acted out the song. That song, I think the lyrics are really, really cool. That's another one of the songs that I co-wrote with my wife, Lily Marier. And she wrote the lyrics sort of from this woman's perspective. And Heather sang it very different from the demo. The demo hadn't been quite as angry, and I thought that was kind of cool because it is kind of an made me play sort of in a more intense way, and it just kind of took it to a whole other level.
Cool. Now, the song you did with Mario, I have to admit, I have some readers of my site who are big Mario fans, and that's actually how I originally found out about your new project. Is they came to me and said, "Oh, there's this new Mario song with Boney James. You gotta check it out." So, what was it like working with Mario?
Man, he was great. I was really super impressed. I mean, I had always, admired him. His first big hit single, "Let Me Love You," I just thought it was great. And, just kind of been watching him from a distance. But when he came in and started singing on this track, I was like, oh, man, I knew he was good, but I didn't know he was that good.
Yeah.
Because he was just so creative. He just added all these things. In fact, I ended up giving him some publishing on the song because he, added some melodic things that I hadn't thought of. And just the way he arranged the vocal. And it just was so great. And I was really in love with that track, too. For me, that was a real departure just musically. I had basically, I had did the whole beat myself and played all the instruments on there except for the guitar. And for me to do sort of a dance-oriented track like that, it was kind of a new thing for me. And then to get him on there with the way he sang, and it was just really fun because I went down to Miami, Florida, where he was working on his new thing to cut that. And we're in this really cool studio. It's kind of like a compound in that tennis court and swimming pool and like a bunch of recording studios all in this house. And it was just a new experience. And by the time we were done, though, I mean, he's like dancing around. He's got a real thing, that guy. Yeah. I was really impressed.
Cool. And the other one is the one with Donald Jones. He's a personal favorite of mine. What was it like working with him on that one?
Well, that's another guy I was just always a real big fan of his, and just one of those people that I've wanted to work with for a long time. And I was really super glad that he agreed to do it. And, he works out of his house in Atlanta. He's got a home studio in the basement.
Yeah.
And a really nice setup. And, he had it mostly done by that time I got there. I mean, he basically runs the whole thing himself. He's got like a separate control room set up in the vocal booth so he can run the Pro Tools while he's singing. So that was interesting, and he works without an engineer or anything like that. But he's another guy just really down to earth. We had a really, really cool time working together, and that's probably one of my favorite songs on the record,
Yeah.
I thought it was a really creative beat that I came up with, and then the way he sang it, I thought he really brought a lot of emotion to it. So that's what I would say about that one.
Cool. Now, do you think that collaborating with these, R&B artists has helped you to reach a new audience and maybe a new demographic?
Well, I'm talking to you, I mean, probably we might not have been talking otherwise, so that's always a good sign.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely. I'm always trying to reach new fans, and I think that I really love my music, and I want more people to hear it at all times, and that's always been my sort of MO, going all the way back to the beginning, I mean, over the years I've had some other collaborations that were, pretty successful. I worked with David Hollister, and we had a big hit together, and I worked with Jaheim and Anthony Hamilton, and all these people have collaborated with me. So that's just kind of part of it. I mean, for me, the big thing is that this is the kind of music I like to listen to. I'm sort of more of an R&B fan than a jazz fan myself, and the music that I like to listen to. And so when I write, lots of times that's what comes out,
Yeah.
And even my instrumental tracks, they have more of a groove than I think a lot of the jazz stuff does. So, I'm just kind of trying to find my own sort of personal space.
Okay. And, honestly, were these artists, I know you're a Grammy-nominated artist, but, were these R&B singers that you collaborated with, were they familiar with your work before you reached out to them?
Yeah.
Oh, they all were? Okay.
They all seem to have a nice level of respect for the stuff I've done in the past, so that's always really gratifying, just to know that people know who you are,
Oh, that's a great thing. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know your influences range, between many genres of music. So do you ever see yourself branching out further into other genres, maybe collaborating with artists from genres outside of R&B or soul music at any point?
Well, I mean, I definitely have an open mind about it. Like, I worked with this girl, Estero, on the Shine CD, and that was someone that, I guess people might even call her alternative, Although the track that we did was also sort of more of an R&B thing, because that's just kind of my personal style. But, I've worked with Altero. I mean, I've worked with a lot of jazz artists, too, of course. George Benson played on my record, which was really a nice thing. But, R&B is definitely the area that I feel more sort of natural in. It's not like a stretch for me. So I don't know. That's kind kind of where my head is at, but I mean, I have an open mind, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't really, I can't see myself writing like a rock song or a country song.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm not sure, you know, maybe more of a pop thing maybe sometimes, or you know, like I said, the thing I did in Mario was kind of a dance thing, so it might be fun to work with one of those dance artists one day, but definitely for me it's always got to be about the groove. I mean, that's just the kind of music I like.
Yeah,
it's got to have kind of a groove to it.
Definitely. So, you know, as you know, I'm more familiar with R&B, and admittedly I haven't listened to too much jazz in my time, but, you know, I was wondering, when you have a song, a jazz song that's strictly instrumental, you know, how do you put a title to that song if it has no words?
Well, you know, it's kind of just about imagining, you know, like, the thing I love about instrumental music is that there is no lyrics sort of to tell you what it's about, so, you know, the listener can kind of, you know, hopefully if it's a good song, it's going to put you in some kind of headspace when you're listening to it, you know, and that's one of the things I think is one of the trademarks of the music that I've done that's been successful, is that it's vibey, you know?
Yeah.
And so lots of times I'll just close my eyes and try and get into what the vibe of the song is and feel whatever the feeling is that comes from listening to it, and then I try and find some sort of poetic or interesting or clever way to communicate that in a title.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a process.
Okay, interesting. And finally, last question. You know, I was reading your list of accolades when I was preparing for this interview, but I want to hear from you. What do you think is your biggest accomplishment so far in your career?
Wow. I don't know. Maybe I haven't had it yet. I hope, you know. But, I mean, when I started, you know, I just wanted to be able to make a living as a musician, you know, and then, you know, you kind of get more ambitions after that. And you know, so it keeps growing. It's just like a never-ending thing. But, you know, definitely when I had my first gold record, that was pretty huge. I couldn't believe it that anybody would be, you know, when I made my first record, I thought my mom would be the only one to buy it. Then I had the Grammy nomination for the Soul Train Award that I won, you know, and the NAACP nomination, all that stuff. It kind of just is, like, almost hard to fathom when stuff like that happens to you, you know, because when you're a kid and you want to be a musician, you grow up and you have these dreams, and then, you know, for me, a lot of my dreams have come true, so it's awfully nice. But I mean, I suppose my goal at this point is to just to keep doing it. I mean, I look at, you know, Stevie Wonder came on stage with us last weekend to jam on my set, which was another huge honor. But I look at Stevie and you know, how long has he been doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So for me, just to be thinking, man, can I have like a 40-year career? You know, that's the next goal, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Anything you'd like to add?
No, I think they were good questions. So
cool.